It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Casey.
And I'm Ashli. Last time we revisited rocket power for the first time in a long time, talking about, what was it called? Womp Race 2000, something like that.
That's exactly what it was called. Don't act like you don't know.
The gift to our nation, honestly.
We also put out our weekly Twitter poll asking which group of Nick antagonists was the most evil. Was it Lars and his friends from Rocket Power, the Greasers from Cat Dog, or Wolfgang and his crew from Hey Arnold? And Wolfgang won with 52% of the vote, with some comments of people talking about how sort of traumatized they were by Wolfgang's antics in the show. Now, we haven't really covered him at all, so good call there, Ashli, including him in this.
Yeah, I voted for Wolfgang as well. I feel like he just sticks out in my mind as this terrorizing group. I always remember the and I don't think we've covered it. The day where all the I think the 4th graders are getting chased down by the 5th graders or something like that, and they throw them into trash cans. Did we talk about that one?
No, but I think
I want to put that on our list.
Yeah, let's put it on the list. Someone mentioned it in the comments.
Okay, because it's terrorizing, honestly. I remember being like, what a horrifying thought. They just go around the whole day, like, being terrorized. And not that the Greasers and Lars and his friends don't have a little bit to them. I was a little surprised that the Greasers got as much of the vote. They got 32%. I thought that was higher than I would have guessed. They are pretty awful, but for whatever reason, they don't stick in my mind as much as the other two.
Right. Yeah, the Greasers are sort of comically over the top, whereas Wolfgang is just, and his friends are just horrible.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, this week, you guys, we are talking about the 4th episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, continuing on with our watch. I know if you guys are following along any bit the same as we are, it definitely gets hard to not just binge the entire show. But we are here, episode 4, continuing on.
Pacing ourselves, yeah. Which is kind of crazy that it's already been 8 weeks, if this is our 4th episode. So we've been slowly but surely working our way through it. Give us a follow on Twitter and Facebook. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and give us a review so others can find the show. We would really appreciate that. Also, make sure to keep checking out our YouTube page and keep leaving your comments there. In a couple more episodes, we're going to start reading listener comments, and you guys have had some really good ones so far, so thank you for that.
And with that, thanks so much for tuning in. Now let's get started.
From the Nicktoons Animation Studio in Hollywood.
Alright guys, this week we are covering The Warriors of Kyoshi from Book 1, Episode 4. It originally aired March 4th, 2005.
And in this one, Aang and his friends are looking for a short break from their travels, especially after the darkness of the Southern Air Temple. So Aang brings them to Earth Kingdom's Kyoshi Island, where he wants to ride elephant koi, which are large fish who inhabit the surrounding waters. However, they're captured by the Kyoshi warriors, a group of female warriors who protect the island. They're freed when Aang proves he is the Avatar, and Aang quickly gains a lot of fame on the island because of his status. As his popularity rises, it starts to go to his head, and him and Katara have their first significant conflict between the two of them. Sokka is embarrassed about being beaten by girls, and so he tries to prove that he's stronger than the Kyoshi warriors. He's proven wrong again and again, so he asks to be trained by Suki, the leader of the Kyoshi warriors, who manages to change his sexist attitude a bit. This is an episode of major change for Sokka. Aang's desire for popularity soon puts him and Katara at risk when he tries to ride a unagi, as well as the whole island when Zuko gets word of his location. Zuko attacks, but Aang, Katara, and Sokka all manage to escape before the entire island can be destroyed. And since they do escape, Zuko does leave the island alone.
Yeah, there's a decent amount happening here. I do like, we start out this episode, very, very first frame here is Zuko's sort of sitting meditating by some fires, and Iroh comes in and he's like, hey, I've got some news, but try and your best to, stay calm. And Zuko's acting all meditative, and he's like, I can handle it. I am in perfect control of my emotions. And then Iroh's like, we have no idea where the Avatar is. And, of course, Zuko immediately loses it. And he talks about how he's clearly a master at elusive maneuvering, because they're looking around at the map, and he's been seen all over in just random places. And we flip back over to Team Avatar, and we see them a disorganized mess. And Sokka's like, you have no idea where you're going. And I just love the sort of idea that Zuko's out there thinking that they've got this great master plan, and they're really just some kids who are wandering aimlessly, hoping to find out where they're going.
It was really smart to transition it from the map to the same map with the same colors and everything. It kind of highlights like you said, that total dichotomy between the two, with Zuko being all together and Team Avatar just truly having no idea what they're doing.
Well, especially just at the beginning of their journey here, right? They kind of got a plan. They sort of know where they're going, but they're really just kind of finding stuff along the way. They're definitely not, I don't think this is a spoiler, they're not as put together as they eventually become, right? Things become a little bit more clear towards the end. But right now, they're really just kids roaming around and kind of trying to save the world, but I don't know, there's a lot of interesting growth that we go on throughout the series with.
Yeah, they're not in any rush to get to the Northern Water Tribe.
No. But they, Aang has a lot of fun things that he wants to see, including these elephant koi. But we also do see... Sorry. Go ahead, no.
He keeps doing this airbending trick where he's like spinning a disc of air around and trying to impress everybody. That's kind of a through line through the episode.
Yeah, and Katara's kind of... She's a little bit more business forward than the other two are, right? And Aang's trying to impress her, and she's just kind of not feeling his antics as much as maybe towards the beginning, right? Like, she's not super impressed by him doing little airbending tricks. So we do sort of see Aang getting a little bit tired of that in the beginning, too. So we already kind of have this setup for the later conflict of... And you kind of, again, you can't really blame him, right? It's kind of the way a lot of little kids are, right? Like, they'll come up and show you stupid little tricks all the time, and you act all stupid impressed, and eventually it gets to wear you down. And I think that's kind of where Katara is at, and you don't really blame Aang for trying to entertain himself either.
Absolutely, yeah. And Katara is sewing Sokka's pants, and Sokka is going on and on about how he can't sew because that's what girls do, and how guys have to be big and strong and all that. And then Katara stops sewing and just throws it at him, and they rip again. And goes, "Don't worry, Sokka, where we're going, you won't need any pants."
I don't know why that line really got to me.
Me too. And just the concept of elephant koi is really cool. They're beautiful creatures.
Yeah, I love all of the interesting sort of crossbreeds we have going on throughout this series. Mm-hmm. The elephant koi, I would love to go through and just surf on an elephant koi. It looked so, like intense, but still kind of relaxing. You got the nice view, got the water everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think at the same time, Appa and Momo are getting in some kind of a fight, so that's why Katara's not attentive while Aang's trying to impress her by riding an elephant koi. But man, I would love to. I would love to have a giant fish that was able to be ridden that way.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they get very quickly captured by the Kyoshi warriors, named after Avatar Kyoshi, the Avatar from 2 before Aang, who I really want a spin-off show about. I think she sounds fascinating. But it's this tribe of warriors who study kind of her ways and do earthbending in her style, and they're very powerful and
Well, they don't do earthbending. Let's double check there. They don't actually earthbend, right?
Oh,
they're
yeah,
just warriors.
You're right. That's true.
But she originally was, well, I guess she's the Avatar, but she was in an earthbending region, I suppose. But they themselves are non-benders.
You're right. That is interesting. We haven't really seen any earthbending yet in this show.
No, and I do think it's interesting, too, to see a fighting style that isn't bending. And sort of the blend between the two of those, right? We don't get a whole ton of interaction in this episode. We do get a little bit of fire bending on Kiyoshi towards the end. But
Right.
I do think it's kind of cool to see the different ways that they use different skills, right? That they're not counted out as warriors just because they can't bend. And go ahead.
And this episode very much could have turned into, like, them not believing he's the Avatar and them being in jail and trying to get out the whole time. But I love how they waste no time here. Aang just goes, I'm the Avatar. They go, you're lying. And he goes, no, look, I can airbend. And then they're like, wow, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
It's a pretty simple way to go about it. Of course, though, this is the first time in a long time that Aang's gotten any positive reaction. He does his little trick again with the disc that he, flies around in a little circle, and one of the villagers starts foaming at the mouth, like
He's
freaking
so
out,
amazed, yeah.
like because of this crazy trick. But we do quickly after, and I think it's really well done. We have this exciting music of everyone being pumped up about the Avatar being there, and everyone's really excited. And it transitions really beautifully from this exciting music, and there's this little girl that goes out to a dock and says, like, oh, have you heard? The Avatar's in town. And we just sort of see, person to person, the news eventually reaching Zuko, and the music sort of gets increasingly tense as it goes on. It goes from this super exciting, like, oh, he's the Avatar, and that's exciting, and that's fun, to this, but look at what that's going to bring upon them, right? We know that Zuko now knows where he is, and that he's gonna come and get him, or at least try to get him.
Yeah, and he goes too big. It would have been one thing to quietly say, I'm the Avatar, but we're hiding from this crazy guy. But instead, he gets very showy, and he likes the attention from the girls. And, who can blame him? It's his first time really being social.
And he is still a kid, right? He's not...
Yes.
He's not a... and I think, truthfully, the weight of this entire situation hasn't really weighed on him yet, right?
No.
He has had some weight on him from last episode, realizing that, the airbending tribe's been knocked out, but I don't think he quite senses how much is on his shoulders right now, right? He doesn't quite feel the I'm the one that's going to save the world as much as the theme sort of plays out for us.
And we honestly haven't learned that much about the big plot that we're not going to get into for people watching with us. The world is still pretty small at this point. It's not a do or die situation quite yet. It's an escape show right now. He's trying to get away from Zuko and learn waterbending, or get Katara to work on her bending. That's the short-term goal right now.
Right. And yeah, they're not really in a rush. They know that they want to do this, and they know that they want to make sure that the Fire Nation doesn't, take over everything. But yeah, they're just kind of taking it as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's this great interaction where Katara is upset by the way Aang is acting, and rightfully so. And Aang says, you're just jealous. And she goes, jealous? That's ridiculous. And Aang says, it is a little ridiculous, but I understand.
Yeah.
Totally turns it around on her. That's such a funny line.
So cheerfully said, too. It's like, yeah, it is a little... Oof.
Yeah, I don't even think he's joking. I think he's, thinks that she's being self-aware, maybe.
Yeah, it's something there.
He can be a little punk.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things where I do kind of see both sides of it, right? Like, he's hated being the Avatar his entire existence, and this is the first time that he has a moment to be excited about it. And yeah, it's a little show-offy, and yeah, he definitely gets into it more than he should, but it's sort of the first positive thing that's come out of this whole experience for him. So far, it's been pretty rough.
Yeah, that's true. And on the other side with Sokka and Suki, Suki is just such a wonderful character, very well written, like all of these characters are. But what I love the most about her is that she is feminine and powerful, and that there doesn't have to be a difference between those two things.
Yeah, she's amazing. from the beginning, Sokka's just being his sexist punk self, and, he, goes to their, their training area, and he's like, hey, I see that you ladies are doing your dance practice, but is there any way that a guy like me can get a workout? And they're just having none of it, they really put him in his place. And I like, in general, their style, too, right? The Kyoshi warriors, they have this almost, kabuki-style makeup going on. They've got these sort of graceful-looking, elegant warrior dresses, and it does such a good job of having this feminine look, but still being just so strong, and they're still they're so cool. I want to be a Kyoshi warrior, absolutely. Honestly.
And I would like to learn more about the other ones, but they don't really get into them.
The other warriors?
Yeah.
Yeah, we really only see Suki for the most part, but...
Right. It makes sense. You can't diverge too much from the main plot.
And that's one of those things from the spin-off, right? If we could see how Kyoshi herself got this all started and...
Right.
All of that jazz.
I also
they so cool.
Speaking generally about this show, I like that it has a serial narrative, but every episode is pretty self-contained. There's a moment before and there's something that's coming at the end of every episode, but you can sit down and watch the one episode out of order and still, I think, get what's going on pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's a few later game, I think, where you'd be a little lost.
Yeah, book 3 in general. But at least early on, I remember I didn't particularly watch them in order until a few weeks in.
No, you really don't have to. And it definitely creates a fuller, more exciting narrative when you take it all from the beginning to end. But definitely, yeah, if you didn't see the beginning of the series, you could still jump in here and more or less understand what's happening, right? They have a lot of these sort of journey episodes where it starts and ends with them on Appa, and it just has such a whimsical feel to it.
Yeah, and that sort of classic, Lord of the Rings, even the Odyssey, this, the hero's journey is the trope, and it works for a reason. There are so many stories that follow that progression, and Avatar strays from it at times, and it breaks it in creative ways, but ultimately it's about a ragtag gang of heroes who you can relate to, who you want to see accomplish something huge.
Yeah, and they're such a cool group between the three of them, and they really do start off as just very, very much a ragtag group. I feel like that's the best way to put it. We've got, like I said, we've got Sokka over there being sexist. We've got Katara and Aang just kind of getting annoyed with each other pretty early on, right? We're only at episode 4, and they're already sort of getting these conflicts between the three of them, but they still definitely care about each other, and you're rooting for them. You're not you're not against them, even if they have their sort of petty things that they do.
Right. And then the last thing we haven't really gotten into is this unagi. It means eel in Japanese, and it's this big, creepy dragon-type thing, eel-type thing that we get a rule of threes type situation with it, where we see it at the beginning when Aang is trying to play with the elephant koi, and then we see it in the middle, it attacks them, and then at the very end, Aang uses it to put out all of the fire that Zuko has spread around the village. So it's kind of a nice, satisfying mini arc there.
Yeah, and I think the middle one, too, he actually gets beat up pretty bad by the Unagi, and he's trying to show off to the girls, right? He's trying to be like, hey guys, look, I can ride the Unagi, and then he says something like, Unagi riding, not fun, something like that. I forgot the exact wording, but...
Right.
He learns his lesson a little bit, and kind of learns a little bit, because I think Katara tells him not to, and he does it anyways, kind of a deal, and kind of realizes that sometimes she does have his best interest at heart, right? That
yep.
Even if she can be a little bit of a mom about it, and it's kind of in a similar thing as when you realize, oh, you know what, my parents did have a point,
Right. It's so true. Aang usually realizes Katara was right. And Sokka... we have our second major Zuko showdown so far. Zuko finds them in the village, as we saw, tracking them down through the map and through, the gossip of the Avatar showing up in this remote earthbending village island. And Zuko tracks him down. He shows up. There's a big fight, and he thinks Aang is hiding from him. And Aang reveals himself and says, "Come and get me." They have a one-on-one fight that then splits off into Kyoshi warriors and Sokka. And ultimately, it's not going well. And Katara realizes very intelligently that the only thing hurting these people here is us. If we leave, fight will go somewhere else. And so they manage to escape, but before they do, Aang says 1 second, and he jumps off Appa, and they're like, "Oh, here we go." And he uses the Unagi to spray water, I guess, and put out all of the fires that the firebenders had started around the village, and ultimately saving the village. And Zuko moves on to chase the Avatar more.
Yeah, this is another situation. We really have no idea where they're going, right? They're off. We know in the general direction of the North Pole, but not really sure where they're gonna end up next. So it always gives you just that sense of wonder, and very much, especially now, we get this sort of constant chase thing, right? That they move forward, Zuko's trying to find out where they are, and then he catches back up, and so on and so forth. Kind of like a cat and mouse kind of a deal here.
Yeah, and the idea that they can never stay in one place for too long, and that was Aang's mistake here, was getting too attached.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad, because we see a little bit of just a flash here for a moment between Suki and Sokka, right? Mm-hmm. There's just this little moment where you sense that maybe there could have been something there, but nope, we got to keep moving forward too. So,
and Sokka apologizes, which is unlike him. He says, "I treated you like a girl when I should have treated you like a warrior." And she says, "I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too."
Yeah, and she kisses him too, and I think it's so good. It's this: I am allowed to be strong, and I'm allowed to be a warrior, and I'm allowed to fight, and I'm allowed to do all of these things that are quote-unquote masculine, but I can still like to be feminine too, right? I can still have the qualities of a generic girl as well, that they're not mutually exclusive. And I think that's such a good lesson to teach, and I think they do it not in a moral teaching way, but just a good example to have out there.
Yeah, she just makes Sokka a lot better, even in one episode.
Yeah, and like I said, there's just this little spark, and then they have the village getting destroyed, and they've got to skedaddle. But it is, even in just this one episode arc, there's so much going on there. We've got a lot of growth from Sokka, right? We have him making jokes at the beginning about not sewing pants, and at the end he's apologizing for not treating these warriors with respect. And I think we, for the most part, I mean, Sokka was definitely more of the comical character out of the crew, I would say, more of the comic relief. But I do think we see some growth in him, and I do feel like this stays for at least a decent part of the series, right? He still makes his comments every now and then, but I do feel like the sexism dies down a lot here on out.
It does, yeah, and we'll have to check in on that as we go on, but yeah, overall, it's just a lovely episode. There's a lot of development on every front. We get introduced to Suki and the Kyoshi warriors. We see Zuko as a fierce antagonist again instead of someone we can relate to, because he kind of goes back and forth between those two. We have Sokka in his growth. The Aang and Katara relationship gets way more interesting, and it's the most self-absorbed we've seen Aang be so far.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on, and I do like too just that we get this sort of glimpse into another village, right? We've really only seen Aang's flashbacks of the Airbenders, and we've seen a little bit of the southern water tribe, but we haven't seen a whole lot of all of these different parts of the world. So it's kind of good to see a different lifestyle, a different set of people here.
Absolutely. That's all I've got really on this one.
Yeah, same here, I guess. Should we move on to my little segment here?
Yes, please.
All right, so a little bit shorter here, but the Kyoshi Warriors, and I don't know if we mentioned it, they do all of their fighting with these fans, and it's actually loosely based off of a martial art of the Japanese war fan, and it's called Tessenjutsu. And it was in an ancient sort of martial art there, and the original story of it was that the use of the iron fan was taught to a hero by the name of Sune. Sorry, names are hard to pronounce here. Taught to him by a mythological creature who instructed him in the art of using these iron fans instead of using swords. And in real life, the the practitioners who were best at this were actually able to take on swordsmen and were able to kill opponents with a single blow. So I thought that it was kind of cool that this really intense sort of fan martial arts situation is something that actually exists and is actually pretty much as frightening as the Kyoshi Warriors themselves are. That there's actually been fighters that have murdered people with fans, and I have no doubt that the Kyoshi Warriors have done the same.
That's really cool, and I'm seeing that they use iron fans sometimes.
Yeah.
That's really intense.
Yeah, honestly, just solid iron fans, which we don't quite see. So again, it's sort of a looser sort of tie-in, and there's a lot of different martial arts that go in to it. But I thought this one was just a really interesting deal there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm fascinated by all things Kyoshi. So, yeah, awesome. Thanks for that.
All right, are we good to move on forward to the conclusion?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, our Twitter poll for this week is: which would you ride? An elephant koi, a flying bison, or the unagi? I feel like there's a little bit of how big of a thrill seeker are you, right? Because going for the unagi is a little bit of an iffy move there, but
it kind of reminds me of the Pokemon Rayquaza, if you remember that one.
Yeah, definitely a little bit terrifying. Would probably be an exciting ride, but I'm interested to see how much you guys are willing to risk for an exciting ride there.
Absolutely. Next week, we're getting to one of my favorite weird shows that I hope holds up, Mr. Meaty. I finally found some of the episodes online. I've got an awesome weird episode in mind for it, so thank you, Ashley, for humoring me, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I do too.
Yeah, I barely remember this show from when it was on. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really watch it much. It was around. It was one of those background noise kind of shows for me. So I'm hoping that we have a good time with it. Either way, it's always fun to revisit a show from way back when. So I'm excited to add another one to our list here. As always, be sure to find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. We're all up on there, and we're always happy to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.